Listen carefully because what I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about women. I'm about to break the unspoken code that we've kept secret for generations. These are the 12 psychological secrets we use, not maliciously, but instinctively, to influence, test, and sometimes control the men in our lives. Most women would never admit these openly. In fact, many of us don't even realize we're doing it. But you deserve to know the truth. Stay until the last secret. It will blow your mind instantly. Before we dive deep into these secrets, if you're ready to understand female psychology on a deeper level, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel and ring the notification bell, because this kind of raw, unfiltered truth doesn't come around often. And drop a comment with your city. I want to see where my truth-seeking men are watching from around the world. Let's build a community of men who refuse to stay in the dark. Because once you understand these patterns, you'll never be caught off guard again. You'll see through the games, recognize the tests, and most importantly, you'll respond like the high-value man you truly are. Fair warning, this might sting a little. You might recognize yourself in these scenarios. You might realize why past relationships ended the way they did, but sometimes the truth hurts before it sets you free. Secret 1. The emotional temperature control. We control the emotional temperature of every interaction. The first secret, we control the emotional temperature of every interaction, and it's far more sophisticated than you realize. Watch this carefully. When a woman wants something, she doesn't ask directly. Instead, she creates an entire emotional ecosystem that makes you want to give it to her. Here's how it actually works. We have what I call emotional seasons that we cycle through strategically. Let me break this down for you. The cold winter phase. We become slightly distant, less responsive to your jokes, shorter in our responses. We're not angry, we're creating scarcity. Your brain, hardwired to seek connection, starts panicking. You begin asking, "What's wrong? Did I do something? Are you okay?" We respond with, "I'm fine," the most dangerous 2 words in the female vocabulary. You know we're not fine, but we're making you work to restore warmth. The spring warming. Just when you're about to give up, we offer small signs of thaw. A smile, a brief touch, a moment of the old warmth. This intermittent reinforcement is psychological cocaine for men. You're so relieved to have us back that you'll do almost anything to keep this warmth flowing. The summer high. This is when we're extra affectionate, extra appreciative, extra everything. We're not just happy. We're radiating the energy you've been craving. This is typically when we make our move, our request, our suggestion. Your emotional system is so flooded with relief and happiness that saying no feels impossible. The autumn setup. We start planting seeds for the next cycle. Subtle mentions of things we want, dreams we have, problems that need solving. We're preparing the emotional groundwork for the next winter. The genius of this system? You think these are natural emotional fluctuations. You believe you're responding to our genuine feelings. But here's the truth. We're conducting an emotional symphony, and you're dancing to music you can't even hear. Most women don't even realize they're doing this. It's so deeply programmed into our social DNA that it feels natural. But make no mistake, it's one of the most powerful forms of psychological influence ever developed. Here's a real example. She wants to redecorate the living room. Instead of asking directly, she starts the winter phase. She sits in the living room and sighs. When you ask what's wrong, she says nothing. This continues for days. Then comes spring. She mentions how beautiful her friend's new living room looks, how fresh and updated it feels. Summer arrives when she's especially loving and mentions a sale at a furniture store just in passing. By autumn, she's casually browsing furniture websites while cuddled up next to you. By the time she finally says, "What do you think about updating our living room?" You're so grateful she's talking to you normally again that you practically throw your credit card at the problem. Rehook. Have you ever found yourself asking what's wrong, even when nothing seemed obviously wrong? or noticed how you feel desperate to get back to the good times when she's being distant? Drop thermostat in the comments if you've lived this emotional roller coaster. Secret 2. The subtle entrapment protocol. We create invisible cages you help us build. This second secret is about how we get you emotionally invested without you realizing it's happening. It's what I call the subtle entrapment protocol. And it's so effective because you participate in your own capture. Here's the 3-phase system we use unconsciously. Phase 1. The investment trap. We start by asking for your opinion on small things. What do you think about this dress? Should I take this job? What would you do in this situation? You think we're just seeking advice, but we're actually making you invested in our decisions. Once you give your opinion, you become psychologically committed to the outcome. You want to be right. You want your advice to work out. You're now emotionally involved in our success. Phase 2. The escalation ladder. After you're invested in small decisions, we gradually increase the stakes. Remember how you said I should take that job? Well, now they want me to relocate. What do you think? Now you're not just giving advice about a dress, you're helping plan our entire life. Each step feels natural because it builds on the previous one. You don't notice that you've gone from, what color should I paint my nails, to, should we move in together? Phase 3. The responsibility transfer. This is the masterpiece. Once you're fully invested in our decisions, we start making you feel responsible for our happiness. I'm so glad you encouraged me to take that job becomes, I only took that job because you said I should, becomes, I hate this job and it's affecting my life. Suddenly, you're not just a boyfriend, you're responsible for managing our emotional well-being. Here's a real-world example. She asks your opinion about cutting her hair. Seems innocent, right? You say you like it long. A few weeks later, she mentions feeling boring with her current look. You reassure her she's beautiful. Then she shows you pictures of short hairstyles, asking what you think. You're trapped. If you say you like them, you're contradicting your earlier advice. If you say you don't, you're being controlling. So you try to be supportive, whatever makes you happy. But here's the psychological trap. No matter what happens next, you're responsible. If she cuts her hair and regrets it, you should have stopped her. If she doesn't cut it and feels boring, you're holding her back. If she cuts it and loves it, why weren't you more supportive initially? We've made you responsible for outcomes you never actually controlled, using a decision-making process that was designed to confuse you from the start. The most sophisticated part? We genuinely believe we're just seeking your input. We don't realize we're creating an elaborate psychological web where every thread leads back to your emotional labor and your sense of responsibility for our happiness. This is why so many men feel exhausted in relationships without understanding why. You're not just dealing with relationship issues, you're managing an invisible emotional workload you never agreed to carry. Rehook. Have you ever felt responsible for her happiness, even when the situation was completely out of your control? Or found yourself giving advice and then feeling trapped by the consequences? Type invested if you recognize this pattern. Secret 3. The conflict creation matrix. We manufacture drama to test your stability. Here's a secret that will blow your mind. We don't just have conflicts with you, we create them, deliberately. And it's not because we're crazy or dramatic. It's because manufactured conflict is one of the most efficient ways to gather critical information about your character. Let me explain the conflict creation matrix, the systematic way we generate tension to evaluate your responses. Level 1. The micro-irritation test. We start small. We might disagree with something trivial you said, challenge a minor decision, or express dissatisfaction with something small. We're watching. Do you immediately cave to avoid conflict? Do you get defensive and aggressive? Do you stand your ground calmly? This tells us everything about how you'll handle bigger disagreements. Level 2. The emotional escalation. If you pass level 1, we turn up the heat. We might bring up an old issue, express frustration about something you can't immediately fix, or create urgency around something that isn't actually urgent. We're testing your emotional regulation under pressure. Can you stay centered when we're not? Can you think clearly when emotions are running high? Level 3, the loyalty challenge. This is where we test your commitment. We might mention how another man treats his girlfriend, express doubt about our relationship, or create scenarios where you have to choose between us and something else. We're evaluating, will you fight for us? Will you prioritize us? But also, will you maintain your backbone while doing it? Level 4, the relationship ultimatum. The final test. We might threaten to leave, demand major changes, or force you to prove your love in some dramatic way. This reveals your true character under maximum pressure. Do you panic and become desperate? Do you call our bluff confidently? Do you negotiate from strength or beg from weakness? Here's a real example of this in action. She mentions that her friend's boyfriend surprised her with flowers just because. This seems like casual conversation, but it's actually level 1 testing. She's watching your response. Do you immediately rush out to buy flowers, failing the test by being too reactive? Do you get defensive about not buying flowers, failing by being insecure? Or do you stay calm and maybe say something like, "That's nice of him," passing by being unshakable? If you pass level 1, it might escalate to level 2. I just feel like you don't think about me during the day like other guys think about their girlfriends. Now she's created emotional pressure and urgency around the flower issue. She's testing whether you can handle her emotional state without losing your center. The psychological brilliance of this system is that it mimics real relationship stress. We need to know how you'll respond when life gets hard, when we're at our worst, when everything is falling apart. So we create controlled versions of those scenarios to test your character. But here's what most men don't understand. The point isn't to pass every test by giving us what we want. The point is to pass every test by remaining authentically yourself under pressure. We don't want you to change. We want to see that you won't change when tested. The man who stays calm, loving, but unmovable during our conflict creation, that's the man we feel safe with. Because if you can handle our manufactured drama with grace, we trust you can handle real-life drama with strength. Rehook. Have you ever felt like she was picking fights about nothing, or creating problems that didn't need to exist? Have you noticed that the tests seem to get harder once you pass the easier ones? Drop Matrix if you've experienced this escalating pattern of conflict. Secret 4, the Psychological Conditioning Program. We train you using behavioral psychology principles. This secret might disturb you. We use the same psychological conditioning techniques that trainers use on animals. And it works because most men don't realize it's happening. Let me introduce you to our unconscious behavioral modification program. Variable ratio reinforcement. This is our most powerful tool. Instead of rewarding your behavior consistently, we reward it randomly. Sometimes you get appreciation for doing the dishes, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get affection for being romantic, sometimes it goes unnoticed. This creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive behavioral pattern known to science. Think about slot machines. They work because you never know when you'll win. That unpredictability creates obsession. We apply this same principle to relationship rewards. You never know when you'll get the praise, affection, or acknowledgement you're seeking, so you keep trying harder and harder. Punishment by withdrawal. When you do something we don't like, we don't argue or explain. We simply withdraw warmth, attention, or affection. You're left confused, trying to figure out what you did wrong. This is more effective than direct confrontation because it creates uncertainty and makes you self-correct to regain our favor. Shaping behavior. Through approximation, we don't expect you to become the perfect boyfriend overnight. Instead, we reward small steps toward our desired outcome. You text us good morning once, we respond enthusiastically. You do it for a week, we expect it. You skip one day, we're disappointed. Gradually, we've shaped your behavior without you realizing it. The extinction burst test. When you finally stop doing something we've conditioned you to do, we don't give up immediately. Instead, we increase the pressure dramatically. This is called an extinction burst, the final intense attempt to restore the old behavior pattern. If you buy us flowers every Friday, then stop. We don't just accept it. We might become extra sad, extra grateful when someone else does something nice, or extra critical of your other efforts. Here's how this looks in real life. She gives you amazing affection after you clean the house without being asked. The next time you clean, she's busy and barely notices. The third time, she's appreciative but less enthusiastic. The fourth time, she mentions something you missed. By the fifth time, you're cleaning obsessively, trying to recreate that first incredible response. You don't realize you're now cleaning to earn love rather than cleaning to be helpful. The behavior looks the same, but the motivation has been completely transformed. The progressive expectation ladder. Once a behavior becomes routine, we stop rewarding it and start expecting more. You used to get praise for taking out the trash. Now it's just expected. The praise now goes to bigger gestures. This keeps you constantly working harder for the same emotional payoff. The genius of this system is that it feels natural to both of us. We think we're just responding to your actions. You think you're just trying to make us happy. Neither of us realizes we're engaged in a sophisticated behavioral conditioning program. But here's the trap. Once you're conditioned to work for our approval, you're no longer acting from your authentic self. You're performing behaviors to earn emotional rewards. And paradoxically, this makes you less attractive to us because you're no longer the self-directed man we were originally drawn to. Rehook. Have you ever found yourself working harder and harder for the same appreciation you used to get easily? Or noticed that your good deeds stopped being noticed and started being expected? Type conditioned if you recognize this pattern of constantly raising the bar. Secret 5. The social hierarchy navigation system. We use other women to determine your value. This secret reveals one of the most primal aspects of female psychology. We don't just decide if you're attractive in isolation. We use other women as a complex social radar system to determine your true value. And this process is far more sophisticated than you realize. Here's how our social value assessment network actually operates. The pre-selection scanner. Before we even interact with you directly, we're observing how other women respond to you. Do women light up when you speak? Do they seek your attention? Do they touch you casually in conversation? Do they laugh at your jokes? Do they include you in group conversations? This pre-screening tells us everything we need to know about your social value before we risk our own social capital investigating you. The competition detector. Once we're interested, we start monitoring other women's behavior around you even more carefully. This isn't jealousy, it's intelligence gathering. If other women start acting territorial, flirty, or possessive when we're around, that increases your value exponentially. It tells us that multiple women have assessed you and found you worthy of competition. The status confirmation matrix. We pay attention to the quality of women who are attracted to you. If high-value women, successful, attractive, intelligent women, show interest in you, your stock rises dramatically. If only desperate or low-quality women pursue you, it signals something concerning about your actual value versus your perceived value. The tribal approval system. We notice how women in our social circle respond to you. Do our friends like you? Do they approve of you? Do they express envy about your relationship with us? Do they make comments like, "Where did you find him?" or "You're so lucky"? This tribal validation is crucial because it affects our social standing within our female community. The loyalty test network. We watch how other women respect your relationship boundaries. If women continue to flirt with you despite knowing you're taken, it signals that you're high value enough to risk disrespecting us for. Paradoxically, this makes you more attractive to us, even though it should theoretically be threatening. Here's a real-world example. You're at a party with her. She's not just enjoying herself, she's conducting a comprehensive social audit. She notices that the attractive bartender gives you extra attention. The hostess makes sure to include you in conversations. Other women laugh at your stories and make eye contact. Even women who don't know you seem comfortable approaching you. All of this data gets processed unconsciously. She doesn't think, other women like him, therefore he's valuable. Instead, she just feels more attracted to you without understanding why. Her body is responding to social proof that her conscious mind isn't even tracking. But here's the dangerous part. This system can work in reverse. If other women ignore you, seem uncomfortable around you, or treat you dismissively, it triggers doubt about her choice. She starts wondering what they're seeing that she missed. Even if she was perfectly happy with you before, negative social feedback from other women can erode her attraction. The scarcity amplification effect. When other women want what we have, it activates our competitive drive. Suddenly, you become more precious because you're contested territory. We start investing more energy in keeping you, looking better for you, being more affectionate with you, not necessarily because our feelings deepened, but because other women validated our choice. The most sophisticated part? We use other women's reactions to calibrate our own responses. If another woman flirts with you and you shut it down respectfully, our attraction increases. If you flirt back, our attraction decreases, not just because of the betrayal, but because it signals you might not be as selective as we thought. Rehook. Have you ever noticed her behavior change after other women showed interest in you, or felt like she was somehow comparing notes with other women about your value? Drop validated if you've seen her attraction increase when other women approved of you. Secret 6. The vulnerability gatekeeping protocol. We control access to our true selves like a maximum security prison. This secret is about how we manage emotional intimacy, and it's far more calculated than you imagine. We don't just open up naturally. We have a sophisticated gatekeeping system that controls exactly what you see, when you see it, and how much access you get to our authentic selves. Here's how our emotional access control system works. Layer 1. The public persona. This is the version of ourselves we show everyone, friends, family, co-workers, and yes, even you in the beginning. We're pleasant, relatively predictable, socially appropriate. We might share opinions, preferences, and surface-level thoughts, but nothing that could be used against us emotionally. Layer 2. The relationship beta version. Once we decide you might be worth investing in, we release a slightly more authentic version. We share some insecurities, some dreams, some fears, but these are still carefully curated. We're sharing things that are real, but not things that are devastatingly vulnerable. We're testing how you handle minor emotional intimacy before trusting you with major emotional intimacy. Layer 3. The intimacy audit. Before we go deeper, we conduct a comprehensive assessment of how you've handled the vulnerability we've already shared. Did you remember our fears? Did you use our insecurities against us during arguments? Did you judge our dreams or dismiss our concerns? Did you share our private information with others? This audit determines whether you get promoted to deeper access levels. Layer 4. The core self-revelation. This is where we share our deepest fears, our most shameful moments, our biggest dreams, our darkest thoughts. But here's the catch. We only share these things when we're absolutely certain you won't abandon us if you see who we really are. This level of access is earned through months or years of proving your trustworthiness. Layer 5. The crisis access. The deepest level of intimacy isn't planned, it's forced by circumstances. This is when life falls apart, when we're at our absolute worst, when we can't maintain any facades. How you respond to us during these unguarded moments determines whether the relationship survives and deepens, or whether we start building walls again. But here's what makes this system particularly sophisticated. We don't just control what we reveal. We control when and how we reveal it to maximize emotional impact. Strategic vulnerability timing. We might share something deeply personal right after a fight, when you're feeling disconnected from us, This creates an intimacy rebound effect. You feel special that we trusted you with something important, and the conflict gets overshadowed by emotional connection. Emotional labor testing. We share problems and watch what you do with them. Do you try to solve them immediately, failing the test by not understanding we need emotional support, not solutions? Do you listen without trying to fix, passing the test by providing emotional presence? Do you remember and check in later, advanced level passing? The withdrawal threat. Once you're accustomed to a certain level of emotional access, we might temporarily withdraw it to see how you respond. Do you panic and try to force your way back in? Do you give us space while making it clear you're available? Do you punish us for needing space? This tests your emotional maturity and your understanding of our autonomy. Here's a real example. She tells you about her complicated relationship with her father. This seems like simple sharing, but it's actually a multi-layered test. She's seeing if you'll judge her family, if you'll remember this information, if you'll use it to understand her better, and if you'll be patient with the ways this affects her behavior in relationships. If you pass this test, you might get promoted to hearing about her insecurities around her career. If you pass that test, you might eventually hear about her deepest fears about not being worthy of love. Each level of sharing is a privilege that must be earned and can be revoked. Rehook. Have you ever felt like you were slowly earning access to different versions of her? Or noticed that she shares deep things right after conflicts to reconnect with you? Type access if you've experienced this graduated intimacy system. Secret 7. The security versus excitement paradox. We want both safety and danger from the same man. This secret reveals one of the most complex contradictions in female attraction. We want to feel completely safe with you, but we also want to feel excited by you. We want security and adventure, stability and mystery, predictability and surprise, and we want all of this from the same person. Think about what we're attracted to in movies and books. The dangerous bad boy who becomes protective and loyal only for the heroine. The mysterious man with a dark past who opens up only for her. The powerful man who could have anyone but chooses her. We want the man who's dangerous to everyone else but safe for us. We want the man who's unpredictable to the world but reliable for us. We want the man who's mysterious to others but open with us. This creates a challenge for men because these seem like opposing qualities. How can you be both safe and exciting, both stable and mysterious, both predictable and surprising? Here's the answer. It's about context and layers. You can be completely reliable when it comes to your commitment, loyalty, and core values. But you can be unpredictable when it comes to experiences, adventures, and surprises. You can be emotionally stable and trustworthy, but intellectually challenging and growth-oriented. You can be physically protective and secure, but also spontaneous and playful. The mistake most men make is thinking they have to choose. They either become completely safe and predictable, which leads to boredom, or they try to be exciting through chaos and unreliability, which leads to anxiety. The high-value man understands that true attraction comes from being grounded in your core, but dynamic in your expression. Solid in your character, but flexible in your approach. Trustworthy in your intentions, but surprising in your methods. When you can master this balance, you become the man we can't live without and can't get bored with. Secret 8. The validation hunger. We test how much you'll change for our approval. Here's a secret that might make you uncomfortable. We often test how much you'll compromise your authentic self to gain our approval. And paradoxically, the more you change for us, the less we respect you. This test usually starts small. We might make a comment about your clothes, your friends, your hobbies, or your habits. We might suggest you'd look better with a different haircut, or that you should spend less time with certain friends, or that you should try being more social, or less social, or more ambitious, or more relaxed. We're watching to see what you do with these suggestions. Will you immediately comply to make us happy? Will you consider them thoughtfully? Or will you maintain your sense of self regardless of our opinions? The men who immediately change everything to please us. We lose respect for them. Because if you'll change core parts of yourself for us, what else will you change? If you don't value your own preferences, why should we? But the men who listen to our input, consider it genuinely, but ultimately make their own decisions based on their own values. Those men earn our respect, because they show us that their sense of self isn't negotiable. Here's the psychological truth. We don't actually want you to change for us. We want to see that you're unchangeable. We want to know that your core identity is solid enough to withstand external pressure, including pressure from us. This doesn't mean ignore our input or never compromise. Healthy relationships require give and take, but there's a difference between conscious choice and people-pleasing desperation. When you change something because you genuinely see the value in it, that's growth. When you change something just to avoid our disapproval, that's insecurity. We can feel the difference, and we're attracted to growth but repelled by insecurity. The man who says, "I appreciate your input, but I'm comfortable with who I am," is infinitely more attractive than the man who says, "Whatever you want, I'll change it." Secret 9. The comparison game. We constantly compare you to other men. This secret might make you paranoid, but it's better, you know. We constantly, unconsciously compare you to other men. And I mean constantly. We compare you to our exes. We compare you to our friends' boyfriends and husbands. We compare you to men we see in movies, read about in books, or follow on social media. We compare you to our fathers, our brothers, our male friends. This isn't necessarily malicious. It's how our brains work. We're always gathering data about what's possible, what's normal, what's exceptional. And unfortunately, you're always being measured against this invisible benchmark. Here's how this shows up. We might mention how thoughtful our friend's boyfriend is when he brings her flowers. We might comment on how funny that guy at work is. We might talk about how romantic that scene was in the movie we just watched. Most men hear these comments and think we're being critical, or that we want them to be more like these other men. But that's not always what's happening. Sometimes we're just processing. Sometimes we're giving you information about what we value. Sometimes we're even complimenting you by comparison. But sometimes, yes, we are testing you. We want to see how you respond to being compared to other men. Do you get insecure and defensive? Do you try to prove you're better? Do you dismiss our observations? Or do you stay confident in your own value? The secure man hears these comparisons and responds from strength. He might say, "That's nice that he does that for her," or "I'm glad you enjoyed that," or even, "What specifically did you like about that?" He doesn't feel threatened because he knows his own worth. He doesn't compete because he's not in a competition. He doesn't try to be someone else because he's confident being himself. Here's the truth. We compare you to other men because we want to feel proud of our choice. We want to know that we chose well. When you respond to comparisons with security and confidence, it confirms that we did. Secret 10. The emotional contagion. We absorb your energy more than you realize. This secret reveals something that many men don't understand about female psychology. We are emotional sponges. We absorb your energy, your mood, your emotional state more than you realize. If you're stressed, we feel stress. If you're anxious, we become anxious. If you're angry, we feel that anger in our bodies. If you're confident and calm, we feel that peace and security. This isn't weakness. It's actually a form of emotional intelligence. Women are generally more attuned to emotional subtleties, more sensitive to energy shifts, more aware of unspoken feelings. This helped us survive throughout history by being able to read danger, assess safety, and respond to the emotional needs of our communities. But in modern relationships, this means your emotional state has a huge impact on our attraction to you. When you're centered, grounded, and emotionally stable, we feel safe and drawn to you. When you're reactive, chaotic, or emotionally unstable, we feel unsafe and want to create distance. This is why confidence is so attractive to women. It's not just about how you view yourself, it's about how your energy affects us. Confident energy is calming, inspiring, and magnetic. Insecure energy is draining, destabilizing, and repelling. Here's what this means practically. The work you do on yourself, the emotional regulation you develop, the inner peace you cultivate, all of this directly impacts how attracted we are to you. When you walk into a room feeling good about yourself, we feel that positive energy. When you handle stress with grace, we feel that stability. When you remain calm in chaos, we feel that strength. But when you're constantly worried, constantly seeking validation, constantly in emotional turmoil, we absorb that energy too. And it's exhausting. This is why the most attractive men are often the most emotionally regulated men. They've learned to manage their inner world in a way that creates a positive, stable energy field around them. Your emotional state isn't just about you. In relationships, it affects everyone around you. And we're responding to that energy whether we're conscious of it or not. Secret 11, the exit strategy. We start planning our escape long before you notice. This secret might be the hardest one to hear. When women decide to leave a relationship, we usually start the process months before you see any obvious signs. We emotionally detach gradually, quietly, almost invisibly. Unlike men, who often leave suddenly after reaching a breaking point, women typically go through a long process of checking out. We start by withdrawing small amounts of emotional investment. We stop sharing certain thoughts and feelings. We begin creating emotional distance. Then we start testing whether we can imagine life without you. We notice other men more. We fantasize about being single. We start making plans that don't include you. We begin building a support system for the transition. All of this happens while we're still physically present in the relationship. We're still going through the motions, still showing up, still participating. But emotionally, we're already halfway out the door. By the time most men notice something is seriously wrong, we've often already made our decision. We've already grieved the relationship, processed the loss, and prepared for the departure. This is why it seems like women can move on so quickly after a breakup. It's not that we didn't care. It's that we did most of our emotional work while we were still together. Here are the early warning signs that most men miss. We stop bringing up future plans together. We become less interested in resolving conflicts. We stop trying to change things that bother us. We become more independent and self-reliant. The conversation shifts from we to I. Our complaints become less frequent but more serious. We stop asking you to be different and start accepting that you won't change. If you're noticing these signs, the relationship isn't necessarily doomed, but it means serious intervention is needed. It means having honest conversations about what's not working and making real changes, not just promises. Because once we've mentally and emotionally checked out, it's incredibly difficult to check back in. Secret 12, the power exchange. We want you to lead, but we'll test your leadership. The final secret is perhaps the most controversial. Despite what modern culture tells us, most women are attracted to masculine leadership. We want you to lead, but we'll test whether you're worthy of following. This doesn't mean we want to be controlled or dominated. It means we want to be with a man who can make decisions, take responsibility, and guide the relationship forward. We want to feel like we're with someone who knows where he's going and has the strength to take us there. But here's the catch. We won't just automatically follow any man who tries to lead. We'll test your leadership to see if it's real or fake, strong or weak, beneficial or selfish. We might resist your decisions to see if you'll stick to them or crumble under pressure. We might challenge your direction to see if you can explain your reasoning or if you're just being arbitrary. We might push against your boundaries to see if they're real or just suggestions. This testing isn't rebellion, it's verification. We want to know, is this man's leadership based on wisdom and strength or on ego and insecurity? Does he lead because he cares about our well-being or because he needs to feel powerful? The men who pass these tests understand that true leadership isn't about control, It's about responsibility. It's not about being right. It's about making good decisions. It's not about power over us. It's about power with us. When you can lead with confidence but not arrogance, with strength but not rigidity, with direction but not domination, something beautiful happens. We relax into our feminine energy. We feel safe to be vulnerable. We trust your judgment because you've proven it's worthy of trust. The man who can say, "I've thought about this, and here's what I think we should do," and then explain his reasoning with patience and confidence. That's the man we want to follow. Not because we have to, but because we want to. Look, I didn't share these secrets to make you cynical about women. I shared them because understanding is power. When you know these patterns, you can respond from strength instead of reacting from confusion. Here's the truth most women won't tell you. We want you to see through our tests. We want you to be unshakable. We want you to love us enough to not lose yourself in the process. These aren't flaws in female psychology. They're features. They're how we determine whether a man is worth our investment, our vulnerability, our commitment. And when you understand them, you can build something real, something lasting, something based on truth instead of games. The woman who truly loves you doesn't want to control you. She wants to trust you. She doesn't want to test you forever. She wants you to pass the test so she can finally relax. She doesn't want to play games. She wants to know you're strong enough that she doesn't have to. Which of these secrets hit you the hardest? Which one explained something you never understood before? Drop a comment and let me know. I read every single one. And don't forget to tell me what city you're watching from. If this video opened your eyes, smash that like button. Subscribe for more raw truth about relationships and psychology. And share this with the men in your life who need to hear it. Remember, knowledge is only powerful when you use it. Don't just watch, apply what you've learned. Your future relationships depend on it. Until next time, stay strong, stay aware, and never stop growing. Hit that notification bell so you never miss insights that could change your entire approach to relationships. Your future self will thank you.